Egypt. Jazakallah khair for the question there. Okay, can we touch to Sister Aisha's question from Egypt now? The sister said, mashallah, she's been in a Muslim land for about 5 years. She's been Muslim for 5 years. She's been in a Muslim land for about 4 years. Her father recently came to visit them. It was a good visit, gave some presents. He's interested in Islam, maybe historically or for other reasons, scientifically. But she's finding it difficult to convince him. She wants to know some advice. She says, I'm not very knowledgeable like the rest of us. She wants to know, how do we go about on the step of giving a dawah really to our parents?
Okay. Well, alhamdulillah that Allah Azza wa Jal has guided you to Islam. But isn't it a little bit too long for 5 years and you're not acquired the sufficient amount of knowledge to call others to Islam? Wouldn't you be sad if no one called you to Islam and you did not accept Islam on the Day of Judgment? So how would they feel? Now, your father is your own flesh and blood, and indeed he's the dearest person to your heart, and you should focus and try your very best and go out of your way to convince him and invite him to Islam. Having said that, you should also focus on your own self, by teaching yourself, by learning, by acquiring the proper books, by asking questions to people of knowledge, so that you can gain a lot of knowledge about your religion. Now, first of all, the sister has to focus on the issues that she liked in Islam and called her to revert to Islam. So this is the common ground between her and her father. Second of all, the best manifestation of Islam is your own actions. So if you practice Islam properly, people would have no excuse other than to like what you're doing and to like the transformation that took place between you 6 years ago and you at present. You should also supplicate during your sujood, because Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, he was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, but his mother would not accept Islam. On the contrary, whenever she saw him, she cursed the Prophet, she slandered Islam, she said every bad thing she knew about the Muslims. And Abu Hurairah used to try and try and try, and at the end he went to the Prophet ﷺ crying. So the Prophet asked him, what's wrong? He told him, my mother, she's saying so many bad things about Islam, and I want you to become a Muslim. The Prophet raised his hands and said, oh Allah, guide Abu Hurairah's mother to Islam. He went to her house. He heard the sound of water, and she said, stay where you are, don't enter. And when he entered the house, she said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. The prayer was answered. So supplicate as much as you can for the sake of your father, that Allah Azza wa Jal may guide him to Islam. And there's nothing wrong in giving him books that would be acceptable to him. So if he's interested in science, give him books that talks about science and Islam. If he's interested in history, give him the same, and so on.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khairan. I'm sorry for calling again, but I want to add that when I first came to Islam, I made hijrah because they took my son from me.
Okay.
And so when I fought and got him back, I came here. And with the dawah of talking to my father, I don't accept any gifts from their Christmases and this. So this last year, he sent money for Eid al-Adha to get a part of a cow with my husband and a friend. I'm saying I've done, and I constantly seek knowledge on my own because my husband's never here and no one in my life or his speaks English but me. Even he don't speak English. So I struggle on my own. And I'm saying my father has learned all about Ibrahim and the prophets and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I just don't know how to. Is this going to be on me if he dies a kafir? I guess that's my concern. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah feek. Sister Aisha there from Egypt again. Okay, she's tried very hard. She's come to Islam to separate herself from the bad parts of a family, so not accepting money for Christmas and all these kind of things. She's really turned the table. She says, now my father gives us money in times of Eid, mashallah. She says, really the question she's asking is that, is him not becoming a Muslim going to be on her head on Yawm al-Qiyamah?
Okay, that's a very good question. And the answer would be that if she did her best, Allah Azza wa Jal would not hold her responsible. And even if she did not do her best, it is his responsibility for not seeking the knowledge, the proper knowledge. It's not yours, because you have a father, a mother, and cousins and uncles. It's not your responsibility to go to each and every one of them to call them to Islam. And I would like to advise you and warn you at the same time. If, as I've understood, you're trying your best to acquire knowledge on your own and that nobody else speaks English except yourself, it is your responsibility, as long as you are a Muslim in an Arab country, to acquire Arabic so that you can communicate with others and get proper knowledge from its sources on your own. If you do not do this, you're on your own, you're stranded. And this means that any person could influence you. And this is very dangerous because reverts, if they are not taken care of, and if they do not take care of themselves and put a plan for themselves, anyone like your father or your parent, your mother or your cousins or your uncles could email you, could send you things that may shed doubt in your mind because you do not have the knowledge. So you could have a very bad influence for your people. Hijrah is not to be made only physically. It has to be made also mentally. You have to put a barrier between your Islam and anything that may harm it. And that is why you performed Hijrah. This means that you have to follow and adhere to the instructions of the Quran and to the Sunnah. You have to follow them exactly as they are relayed to you. But to have the intention of having mixed lives and being a Muslim, committed Muslim, and then listening to what others tell you, this is a very dangerous thing.
Jazakallah khair.